Welcome to the Vita Paz budget hearing. We've been doing this for the past 6 years. We started doing this at the elementary school, and this place was built. So in just a moment, my name is Daniel Valenzuela. I'm honored to be the council member for District 5, which is Central and West Phoenix, which includes this particular area here. We have lots of city staff in the room. I'm here with our Deputy City Manager, Karen Peters, and we also have our Aviation Director. We see staff from our Fire Department, Police Department, and several other departments. So thank you all so much. Human Services is here. Lisa Perez, my Chief of Staff, is in the back, and so it's great having everyone here for this particular budget hearing. In a moment, I'm going to hand it off to Karen. She's going to go ahead and give us the rundown, which basically includes a couple of videos, and then we'll get to cards. All of these budget hearings are recorded. They are placed online, so you can catch them on YouTube. It's important that we do that. We have lots of family members, friends, neighbors who can't be here because they are busy raising their children or they're at school or work. So just remind our neighbors that they can send council members and the city manager and the mayor an email. We'll get that, make a phone call, call their offices. We'll get that information. We're gonna show the trial budget. The way this works, the city manager puts together a trial budget. Then we run it through a series of budget hearings, which is what we are doing. We started this yesterday, and this will continue. I think we have about 20 of them, 15. These are citywide budget hearings. Eventually, we will vote on this budget. Now, historically, we've seen it. We see it every year. We expect it this year as well. I expect that the actual budget that we vote on and pass will look somewhat different than what the proposed budget is. And that's a good thing. That just tells us, and it should tell you, that your fingerprints are on this particular budget. So that said, before I hand it over to Karen, which is going to pick up pretty much everything I probably missed out on, I just want to remind everyone that, so everyone, just for the sake of time, we want to be sure everyone is heard. Everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. So if you have not filled out your card yet, they are in the back. We'll be sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. And without further ado, I'll hand it off to Karen Peters. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Councilman. So just very briefly, so what we'll say is getting input on the budget. As the Councilman indicated, the budget tabloid is in the back of the room. For those of you who didn't get one, please take it. It's at the back. I would like to ask our interpreter to please introduce herself and
Good afternoon. My name is María. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es María. Soy intérprete del idioma en español. Si hay alguna persona que necesita intérprete, puede comunicar conmigo y yo le voy a ayudar. Gracias.
thank you, Maria. And so we're going to do this meeting in a couple of parts. So the first thing we'll do is an informational video, followed by a video that describes the actual we'll have public comments, questions, and suggestions. I want to thank all the city staff that are here tonight. For those residents that are here that have questions, city staff are here to answer any of those personally. So please take advantage of that, and thank you, city staff, for being here for that purpose. So this first video is an overview of the city. Something that was developed as a result of feedback from residents last year about a need to understand how the budget is actually put together. It is about 5 minutes long, and as soon as that's done, then we'll go into the video about the actual budget. So with that, here is the informational video.
Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're gonna make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix Senior Centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes, and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie, and most departments like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales, and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods, and libraries. It's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the City Council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the City Council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility, and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
Okay, so that is how the budget is developed. And so now what we'd like to present is a short video on the budget that has been developed for the fiscal 2019 year. This budget preserves existing services and adds a few important services with a very small surplus that is available this year. It also includes some capital improvements to build the city's infrastructure. So this video will describe that. Your feedback on these priorities will help us know how to build the final budget, which is presented to the council on May 8th, and then there's final action on May 22nd. So you have time tonight and then thereafter for the rest of the month to provide your feedback. So with that, let's look at the budget video.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now, the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set-aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement, Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79. Adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new sober living home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix. And for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department will use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department will use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
Check, check. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So we'll go ahead and call up the first speaker. Keep in mind, for the sake of time and fairness, we'll give everyone 3 minutes. We ask that everyone who wishes to speak, if you could please come to the mic so that it gives us a chance to record the comments. And again, these are budget hearings that also go online so that everyone has a chance to hear the conversation here at Vita Paz. So, first speaker, Mari Herrera, Phoenix Revitalization Corp. Mari, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mari Herrera, and I work for a nonprofit called Phoenix Revitalization Corporation. We work in revitalizing neighborhoods and engaging residents to take ownership and stakeholders in their community. First of all, in looking at the budget, PRC supports firsthand $852,000 for public safety, for hiring of more police and fire, $235,000 for the Sober Living Code Compliance Program. PRC supports $86,000 for the Code Compliance Neighborhood Services, and $256,000 for additional park rangers. PRC does not support the $300,000 to go to homeless outreach services for additional. PRC feels that there are enough nonprofits in the community that are working to address the homeless issues. So PRC recommends the reallocating and distributing of the $300,000 to 1, public safety, 2, stronger enforcement for the Sober Living Program, 3, allocating to neighborhood services to increase staff for graffiti crews, supplies, vehicles, inspection crews and community workers, and lastly, more park rangers and community action officers. PRC feels that these allocations make a bigger and lasting impact on neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Herrera. The next speaker, Ramon Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Ramon Gonzalez. I'm a resident here in Maryvale. I'm also a Phoenix firefighter. I just wanted to bring a couple of things to notice to you guys. We just wanted to, not only as a firefighter, I want to speak to you guys as a resident. I want to bring up the concern that I have. Population has been increasing here in the city of Phoenix. As a fire department, we run more than 50,000 calls since 2010, and we have not added a fire station in a while. So we want to make sure that gets brought up. Also, per national fire standards, we're supposed to have one firefighter per 1,000 residents. We do not. We're 138 firefighters short here in the city of Phoenix. So we express that as a concern. If we do plan to hire for this 138 positions, that would be an additional 5 fire stations, and that's a concern for me as a citizen because if we have less fire stations, that means longer response times on the community. Like I said, I live here in Maryville, and it directly affects me. When we do have longer response times, that means other stations get taken away from their first dues, which affects everybody in every single emergency call. So I just would like to ask that that gets brought up to attention, that we do need more firefighters out there. Aside from a couple positions that were mentioned up there, the 8 positions, we're 138 firefighters short, and we would like that to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Valenzuela and Karen from the city and all city employees. My name's Father Tom Doyle. I'm a Catholic priest, and I'm the director of Andre House of Phoenix. Andre House provides the primary meal in Central Phoenix for people experiencing poverty and homelessness. We've existed for 34 years. We've served over 5 million meals. We receive no tax benefits from the city, the state, or the county, but I'm coming to speak tonight for people who don't have a voice, and those are the people experiencing homelessness. As the video pointed out, there's a 60% increase of people living on the streets, and we certainly feel it in Central Phoenix around 12th and Jackson near Central Arizona Shelter Services and where we are. Currently, there are about 250 people within a stone's throw of where it is that we serve the meal. Those are people who are sleeping outside, unsheltered, on the streets. Shortly, the temporary shelter that has been housed by St. Vincent de Paul is going to be closed down. So the city and a lot of agencies are working hard to rehouse these folks, but many, quite frankly, especially those on the street, are not housing ready. The amount of mental illness that we see on the street, the amount of violence that we see on the street, we can't say enough about the good work of our police department and our fire department. I see Assistant Chief Renteria here. She and I have had a chance to meet as well. We're very grateful, but the police and the fire department are not caseworkers. So the things that I'm advocating for are additional space for temporary emergency shelter for people who are unsheltered. Certainly to advocate for mental health. The Phoenix Cares Initiative is really a drop in the bucket, with all due respect. I made a lot of calls, and then when it first came and we were told to stop calling. They know that there are people down there, but they weren't being serviced. So I'm just concerned. Not only is that sort of a beginning, but it's sort of the tip of the iceberg. So mental health and shelter and advocacy for those people who are on the street, and we can get them housed, but many of them just have so many more needs than we're capable of meeting through rapid rehousing programs. So thank you to all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for speaking up. Next speaker, Shirley. I'm sorry, Mrs. Diekman. And two more cards, so we still have time for those who'd like to.
Well, this is my first time at a budget hearing. I found it very interesting. I live in the right across from Grand Canyon University. But I looked through the budget, and I have to agree with PRC and the priest that was here concerning the homeless services by CARE. It is kind of a small drop in the bucket. I think that those funds could be dispersed in other ways. I'm interested in seeing them go to neighborhood services our neighborhood service guy is the best person. He spends hours helping us. He's always out with, I just feel like we need to encourage that commitment that that they make to make sure that neighborhood services meets the needs of Phoenix. And I think with that $3,000 reallocated, and to public safety for the firemen that we need, the 130, I was shocked that we need that many. But again, I think that the CARES, it was a good idea, but I also know, because in our church we work a lot with the homeless, and you have to make so many contacts before they're even willing to talk to you and to get them in anywhere. So if you've only got so few people, I think there's other ways to do this, and providing them with housing and providing them with the mental health part would be the real initiative that should be sought after. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, homelessness is, well, I think it's more than arguably, I think it is the top social issue. And a lot of passionate people. Phoenix Cares program, I'll just say, is something that we put together in working with neighborhood leaders, working with business leaders. You know, one of the business leaders I worked with was Sue Glaw from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, and working with our city departments to figure something out, because it is such a major issue. And I have to say, because I was one of the people that helped start this program, we have to see it through, because there's a reason we had to start, frankly. And there is a major concern. I'm glad that we have great foundations and nonprofits that are out there. I think there's some silos that we have to break down, and we have to come together and work together on this. But I think taking away funding from an issue that we are just now starting to get funding for, I think that's, I just don't think that's part of the solution. But that said, one of our strongest advocates in the city is up next, Lisa Glow from CAS.
My name is Lisa Glow. I'm the CEO at CAS. I've been there now 7 months. And thank you, Father Tom. I couldn't agree more with what you had to say. I mean, homelessness is bad for the individual first and foremost. It's bad for our communities and our neighborhoods, and it's bad for the city. So I want to set the table about what's going on. The unsheltered population over the last 5 years has increased actually by 75%. We saw a 25% increase again this year. The preliminary data shows that. That also includes in an aging population. We're seeing more senior citizens come into homelessness. Come the end of September, we'll be down 27% in emergency shelter beds. That's 382 lost since 2 years ago. So we do know what to do about homelessness. We know we need strong outreach and programs that make people more uncomfortable living under a bush than coming into shelter. So that needs to continue to be a part of it. Second, we need shelter with services. The CAS model is case management with services, which I'll talk about in a second. And third, we know we need more affordable housing. We're at the bottom of the nation in Arizona in affordable housing. We have the second highest eviction rate in the nation, and rents are going up dramatically. All of these are contributing to the fact more and more people are coming into homelessness. Just in the downtown area, there's about 1,000 people in the area right around Andre House and the Human Services campus who are homeless. 470 a night at CAS, currently 275, up to 275 on the floor at St. Vincent de Paul, and then another 250 or so outside of the doors of the Andre House. So back to shelter, the case management model we have at CAS truly works to help resolve homelessness. 84% of the people who are case managed at CAS have known positive exits, and people who stay in shelter prior to getting housed, whether it's through rapid rehousing or another program, have a much better shot at staying housed. The data supports that. Currently at CAS, we only have the resources to case manage about 35% of our clients, and we need more case management, certainly, to help people permanently resolve their homelessness. Again, I concur with Father Tom. We do need more shelter beds. I think he was saying that. We absolutely need more mental health services. Very critical just inside of Cass. We see a lot of people who have serious mental health issues, and so we're going to need more support for that as well, including case managers who could focus on mental health services. It's an area I think we need to expand. Our facility, I'll just say, because last night I was at a hearing and I heard people talk about, we have an old facility, the showers, the renovations, those are needed things. We didn't ask for that from the city, and we're grateful for the city's support that we receive, but we're looking at all of that. And if we do get to the point where we expand at Cass, we'll need more case management and mental health services, and my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Glow. Again, we still have time for more cards, but finally, Regina Nixon.
Good evening. My name is Regina Nixon. I'm the Phoenix Arts Commissioner and also a West Valley resident, and I have been my whole life. I grew up in the Maryvale neighborhood, and I'd just like to say a shout out for those of you who are really working on very important topics like homelessness and public safety. These are things that are necessary for a vibrant community, for a safe community. I'm here to talk about arts, which doesn't seem like it might be as important, but it really is. Arts are an intervention that we can put into place, especially with our young people and our communities in need, to really help them find their own place and their own voices in the community. The neighborhood art grants that are provided by the City of Phoenix to several, we have 3 in the Maryvale District, District 5, provide a way for people to come together and be community with each other and express themselves in a positive way through arts. And so we just want to celebrate that and commend the City Council for their support for the arts and culture programs within the city. But it's not just about the wonderful work that's being done in our communities and with our young people. It's also about maintaining all of these public arts. So when you drive down 107th Avenue, you're gonna see those cityscapes, and those are really important. And that's a huge investment for the well-being and safety of our community, as well as beautification and quality of life. And then there's the repaving of the pool floor at Maryvale Pool House with all the great poetry that's in English and in Spanish. If you haven't been there, it's beautiful, but it's in desperate need of repair. And so even though we are so grateful for the trial budget to have funds set aside for maintenance, to have funds set aside for granting to agencies that get us at a pre-recession level, there's still need. And the need is more allocated funding for maintenance for public art. And it's important to note that when the when the grant program started in 1986, we had a budget of $629,500. If you were to adjust that for inflation, it would be $1.4 million today, and we're nowhere near that. We're the 42nd state in the nation for per person allocation for arts funding for grants programs. And it's important to know that the arts and culture footprint is a really important part of our economic landscape. The creative industries last year generated $402 million in revenues. This is more than the Final Four without a lot of the burden and cost of expense that goes on the city. And for every dollar that the City of Phoenix gives in grant funds to arts and culture organizations, the return is $26 in taxes paid back to the city coffers for necessary services. We know that Phoenix is an amazing city to be proud of, and we are so thankful for what you've given us. Moving forward in the future, we want to continue this level of support and move towards that $1 per capita.
Thank you very much. Suzanne Thrain. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity. My husband and I have lived in, can you hear me? Sometimes the voices are so soft that it's hard to hear, okay? My husband and I have lived in the Maryvale area for 40 years, and we have seen a tremendous change, as any of you who've lived wherever it is that you live, okay? And we do this on a yearly basis, and sometimes we have crises in our city that that just continues to revolve, you know, year after year. But the other thing another thing that happens is that the catchwords change. What's the hottest topic right now? Well, it's homelessness, okay? But how long ago was it that it was moms who didn't have husbands or men in the family, and they were single, and we were talking about you, Mom, and where in the world are they going to go for safety, and the domestic violence, that's been a big thing, and we've thrown fits about having more, not having rangers in our parks, and so we settle year after year. But there has been some words that I think have been very important in our city, and some of those words are responsibility, respect, and then there's that word sustainability that I haven't heard lately. And I come kind of with a prickly feeling about even bringing it up. But we have homelessness in our area, and the police department has done a great job in Maryvale about those who are doing the burglaries and are stealing in order to get their drugs and that kind of thing. And we had the crack team of officers who went out into in fact, Officer Justin Martin started a program some years back for the homelessness in Maryvale, and we did a lot of work in that area. And then Detective Woods and his buddy Josh went out on the streets and spent many, many more hours than anybody has the right to expect. But their goal too was to see to the homeless and to do whatever they could to see that they had services, to the point that now the area that I live in, if there are 5 homeless who really want to go live someplace, that would be a big number. A big number. Because they don't want to go there. It's not any different than, well, I'm pushing 80, and most of you in the room are younger than that, but do you ever hear of a hobo riding the trains, riding the rails? Some people just like to live that way. In some cases, we've lived through the times when we had men and women and their children in cars. I didn't see anybody except the churches and nonprofit entities that were out there knocking on those cars. I know on my block, we fed a lot of people in cars over the years that parked in the parking lots behind us. So it's not a new issue. But sometimes we get on a track of going along with, I really am talking to you, okay? Sometimes we get on a track of going along with what's going on in the country, and I understand that, except, you know, you're going to leave people like my husband and I to decide to move somewhere else after 40 years of working in a community and trying to help people. Because, you know, we can't, sustainability in my neighborhood, that's almost a joke. And you know, I mean, you're taking people out of neighborhood, and I'm not saying don't ask neighborhood services to do things, but what happens when you don't have neighborhood specialists who can give you more than maybe 30, 40% of their time to see to it that some of those issues like, how about the people who know how to work the system and have overabundance of, let's just say, yard sales, not with the stuff from their home that most of us just ignore when they're just trying to feed their family. But what about when they bring in the big panel trucks from furniture stores and stuff? And did you know that in my neighborhood, if we turn that in and the neighborhood specialist doesn't see it, Well, our pictures wouldn't count in court either. But we also have a street right off of 83rd Avenue called Glen Rosa that people in my neighborhood can't even get in and out of when they have their yard sales. Police go out and ask them to get out of the roads, make way, let it be safe. But son of a gun, 70% of the time, my neighborhood specialist is working for the homeless. If you want somebody to do that, how about putting your money where your mouth is for more mental health people? You know, instead of asking departments that have already promised us sustainability and support and to continue to teach us how to take better care in our neighborhoods. You know, I've seen the fire department. I call the fire department because a woman on the street slid down. She was 22 years old, and she was leaning on a stop sign, and she just kept sliding down, and we could tell she was in distress. And she had a tremendous amount of dope in her. And fire department came back, and do you know, for that person, that was your third trip back for the same lady. And that 22-year-old, she had a 6-year-old she left in a motel that she couldn't even remember the name of. Want to talk to me about some serious issues on the street? Those people in my neighborhood who are homeless, they don't want to go to your shelter. And if they do, they don't even stay a couple of nights. You know, look at your records. And then could we speak just 1 second? I know you said 3 minutes, but we haven't had very many speakers. You know, you talk about we need police and fire, and you're not going back. I heard them talking that we're going to need a certain amount and that we're going to get those numbers back up where they used to be. And I heard them talking about 2008, what the numbers were in 2008. Well, if we still had the same population in 2008, those numbers would be swell. But what happens when we've got all this huge growth? If people are running out of California, they're coming to take, to do jobs here. You're building infilling, you're doing some great housing projects in the city. Where are all those, and who's going to protect them? And who's going to come and help them when their house catches on fire? So could we just do a little bit more with what we've got and quit running around looking for some new, and I'm not saying don't house our people. I'm not saying that for 1 second. But, you know, let's don't forget the mom who's just been beat up, and where is she going to stay? You know, is you mom doing fine? I haven't seen them in years. Did they get enough money? Probably not. You know, sustainability, that's turned into a joke. Pardon me.
Thank you, Suzanne, for everything you do for all of us. The last card. I want to thank you all for coming out. And we had budget hearings here at Phoenix for the past 6 years. The city is growing. The border of Phoenix is right behind me here, 107th actually to my left. Thanks, Commander. 107th to my left, and this is a growing area. So we actually have budget hearings out of this building, as well as voting centers for this building. And it's important for our community. It's just for the sake of empowerment. So that all of these comment cards will be kept. All of the conversation is being recorded, and as I just mentioned, this is the type of thing that you will be able to go online in the next few days, and you can share this information with your neighbors. Go to the phoenix.gov website. You'll see a list of the budget hearings, and tonight I see people in the room that were at the Helen Center, which is where I started my morning. So it's a good idea to, if you have the time, it's a good idea to attend all of the budget hearings and just make sure that we're getting the information across. Andre House is well represented today at the Helen Drake Senior Center, as well as Cass and several others.
between Maryvale Community Center and Pendergast Center. We have all kinds of spaces like a high school and other spaces where groups of people do come and gather. Do you know there's never been one there, Councilman?
The Maryville Community Center and
You know what?
So
That's a different group of people. It's and
Right.
we're different than this group of people. You know, all our areas have some different needs.
I agree,
You
Mrs.
know,
Strain.
how about trying that one sometime
Mrs.
before I'm
Strain.
dead, okay?
Mrs. Thrain, we have 15 budget hearings in a city that has more than 500 square miles, and we need more. I'll continue to advocate for it. In fact, again, this is still brand new, you know. So, and it's also a reason why we want to be sure all of these meetings are posted online. Several ways and opportunities to get your voice heard, including and for me personally. But the office, you can email, and absolutely, in fact, if I look around this room, we have city staff. Chief Contreras is here. You know, we have city staff from both police, fire, human services, and the list goes on. It really is important to everyone here. So, again, thank you for coming out. Drive safely, and God bless.